The Perfect Vision by Nigel MacLennan, written and read by the author. Chapter 1. "What should I do, Mum?" Mary asked. Mary's mum replied, "Darling, you have just been offered a job one level higher than I ever reached in corporate life. You must make your own decisions." Mary said, "Here's the situation. The group chief executive and chairman have made it clear that they think I'm nearly ready, but not quite. Ready for a CEO's role, that is. But, given the immediacy of the problem, they are prepared to take a risk with me, provided that I quickly find a new direction for the company." Mary's mum said, "What is the problem with the company?" Mary replied, "They've been moribund for years, out of touch with their markets, rudderless." Mary's mother said, "Mary, you've been working towards this for decades. College, hard work, regular moves. Now, here you are, the big job offer before you are 40. All I can say is, if I had been given this chance, this discussion would not be happening. You've smashed the glass ceiling. Go on up. Even if it doesn't work out, you will have learned massively." "Oh, Mum," Mary said, "I can always depend on you to give exactly the right advice. I love you so much. Thanks. Bye." Mary's eyes welled up with pride and joy. While being driven from the company's international headquarters to the airport, Mary thought, "To reinvigorate this company, I really need to create a new vision for its future, or there won't be a future. To whom can I speak?" She reached for her phone and dialed. A voice at the other end said, "Hello." Mary said, "Stuart?" Stuart replied, "I recognise the sweetness in that lovely voice. How have you been, Mary?" Mary said, "Stuart, you're married now. But thanks, it's good to hear your voice too." Stuart said, "Come on then, Miss Efficient, what can I do for you? You don't call for no reason." Mary said, "Pet names after all these years. Miss Efficient. I haven't been called that since, yesterday. Never mind. When you were setting up your company, from where did you get that wonderful vision?" Stuart replied simply, "You inspired me." Mary said, "You were already showing entrepreneurial talent long before we met. The vision, from where did it come?" Stuart lamented, "If you find another vision like that, let me know. I've never been able to do it since. You always said that I was a one-trick pony." Stuart paused, then asked, "Why didn't you live your entrepreneurial dream like the rest of the group? You were always the smartest one of us." After checking in at the airport, Mary called her mum again. "Mum, I took it." Mary's mum said, "Oh, congratulations. My little girl is a chief executive officer." Mary said, "Thanks, Mum. Is there anyone at the faculty who is expert in the process of creating visions?" Mary's mum said, "Have you tried your old flame, Stuart?" Mary said, "Yes. He operates instinctively and hasn't been able to replicate his success. He doesn't know where the vision came from." Mary's mum said, "With success at that level, he can survive without an encore. What about Stephen?" Mary was puzzled and said, "Stephen who?" "The film director, darling, that you admire so much." Mary replied, "What does he know about vision formation?" Mary's mum said, "Anyone who can lead the creation of as many successful film productions as he has knows a lot about vision formation. Call him." Mary said, "Oh, Mum, how do you do it? I love you so much. Bye." Mary did some quick research and then dialed. "Stephen Raval's office, please," she said. An interrupted and distracted voice answered the phone. "Hello?" Mary said, "Could I speak to Stephen Raval, please?" The famous director replied, "It is I." Mary was flustered. I wasn't expecting to speak with you." "Then why did you call me?" replied a rather indignant Stephen. Mary said, "I was expecting to be put through to your PA. He has gone home." Realizing that Stephen was unlikely to grant anyone a favour in his current mood, Mary decided to call back and said, "Would I be right in saying that you are busy and that now is not a good time to call?" Stephen quickly replied, "Always busy. There is never a good time to call." Going against her own instincts, Mary decided to ask, "I've been a fan of yours all my life and would like to ask you if I can meet you to ask a few questions about how you form the visions for your films." Stephen said, "Call back in the morning and speak to the PR department." He hung up. 3 days later, a reply letter arrived from Stephen's PR office, declining Mary's written request. In the bath that evening, Mary reflected on the common theme from Stephen's films and knew that he could help, if and only if she could find a way to establish a rapport with him. Sitting outside his studio, Mary saw Stephen parking and made her move. She said, "Mr. Rival, I have something for you. You have brought many hours of joy into my life, and I know that you will enjoy this." Mary handed Stephen an envelope and said, "Thank you. Goodbye." Arriving on set, Stephen handed the envelope to his gopher and said, "Find out what this is, please. Thanks." After the first scheduled break had begun, the gopher approached Stephen and said, "Oh, you'll love it. Watch it." He handed the envelope and the contents over and left. Stephen looked at the DVD. He recognized the image on the cover. Surely not, he thought. It is. He then read the accompanying letter. Mary's phone rang. Stephen said, "Okay, Mary, I'll meet you. This Saturday, 6 p.m. at the studio. Reception will be expecting you, okay?" Mary confirmed, and Stephen hung up immediately. Chapter 2. On Saturday, Mary found herself saying, "Mr. Rival, I thought your office would display your Oscars and your other awards." Stephen said, "How did you know I would be impressed by a digital copy of that movie?" Mary replied, "You said in a radio interview many years ago that you collected early films, that there was nothing as thrilling as recovering one thought to have been permanently lost. I did some research with a college friend, and—" Mary became aware, by observing Stephen's body language, of his perpetual busyness. She said, "You don't need the whole story." Stephen replied, "You have my attention." Mary told of her challenge and formally asked Stephen if he would share his considerable wisdom with her. She concluded with, "How did you become so skilled at setting one inspirational vision after another?" Stephen played rhythmically with his turtle-shell glasses as he thought, then said, "The best visionaries are generally those who have had most practice being visionaries. Some professions lend themselves to repeated opportunities to practice vision formation, and others, because of the time it takes to reach a position of seniority and then the length of the production cycle, do not provide enough opportunities for practice. Architecture, medicine, academia, government, business management, and others rarely produce visionaries. The people in those professions just don't have enough practice in vision formation to become skilled in the art. By contrast, people in professions that require the frequent creation of new products or services receive the opportunity to practice vision formation with great regularity. For example, serial entrepreneurs, magazine publishers, artists, musicians, product developers, writers, film directors, and many more. That aside, every so often, someone very young emerges with a compelling vision by virtue of the amount of repeated thought they have put into their field, and their first vision turns out to be inspiring, compelling, and ultimately successful. For example, for my first film, I wanted to show the world the corruption that takes place in the field of boxing. I had been a boxer in my youth and had seen at close quarters what goes on. For my second film, I wanted to show how politics turns honourable people, even those with the most selfless of motives, into professional liars. My father had been a politician, and I saw what it did to him and all of his friends. Each of my films has a vision. Sitting behind each of my films is a core purpose, which is that I want to help the human race understand itself, and through that understanding to make itself better. Mary listened completely, her mind absorbing everything without thought or judgment. Stephen continued, "I could show you the techniques to create a vision, and you would walk away thinking that you understood how to create a vision. And you would most certainly not understand how to create a vision. Yes, you would create something. Yes, you would call it a vision. But it would fail, and you would be demoralized and probably give up. If not after the first time, then certainly after the first few." Stephen continued, "How, you may ask, can I be so certain of that? Let me ask you this. How many visionaries do you know? How many have you ever met?" Mary replied, "One. Well, 2 now." Stephen continued, "Almost no one makes it as a visionary. Why would you fail if I told you the techniques? Because you would have an apparent understanding, but no real insight, and nowhere near enough practice to stand any chance of success. I paint what must appear to be a very bleak picture to you, but with good reason. So here is how it will be. You will demonstrate that you have, or will acquire, the understanding that you need to get to the point where you can learn how to create a great vision. Agreed?" Mary said, not quite knowing what she was agreeing to, "Agreed." Stephen continued, "I will judge whether you have reached that point by setting 5 tests. If you pass all 5 tests, I will teach you. Fail any one, and it's over. Agreed?" Mary replied sceptically, "It sounds rather capricious. How do I know it will all be worth it, or even conducted fairly? Stephen asserted. You don't, and this is not a negotiation. 5 tests. Agreed? Mary knew that Stephen held all the cards and said, Agreed. Stephen continued. To reach the point of forming the kind of vision you need, you must understand human nature. You have 5 minutes to convince me that you do understand human nature. Mary was startled. What, now, with no preparation? Stephen said, 4 minutes, 55 seconds. Mary remembered one of Lincoln's famous quotes. If I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. She thought for around 3 minutes and then announced, You have the film I found for you as evidence that I understand human nature. Stephen picked up the film, looked at it, replaced it, toyed rhythmically with his glasses and said, Second test. To be able to form an inspiring vision, you need to understand the nature of achievement. 5 minutes. Mary again reflected for around 3 minutes and said, Again, the film I gave you. Again, the film I gave you. You knew it existed, but were unable to acquire a copy. I tracked down one of 2 copies in existence and had it digitized for you. Secondly, I have just been appointed chief executive of my company, the person who is charged with coordinating the achievements of my company. Thirdly, most of my staff historically are promoted to other roles in the group within 2 years because I develop them so well and so quickly. Fourthly, I understand enough about your achievements to know what knowledge I am missing and that you are the person who can help. Stephen stopped toying with the DVD case and examined the graphic still on the front cover. He said, 2 copies. Third test. You must understand leadership before you can create a powerful vision. Next Saturday here, 6 p.m, 5 minutes on leadership. Agreed? Mary wanted to ask so much, but had already realized that asking anything else would only risk destroying this strange but potentially valuable relationship. She said, Leadership, Saturday, 6 p.m, here. Agreed. Chapter 3. Stephen said, Thank you for the film. I learned much from it. How those early pioneers could achieve anything given the equipment that they had is an amazing testament to their leadership and vision formation. You have 5 minutes. Mary had prepared well. She had collated all her graduate school notes, all her course materials, and had condensed the entirety into an intense tour de force 5-minute presentation. She began. Leadership appears to be one of those sand-like qualities slipping effortlessly through your fingers the more you try to grasp it. Here is my definition. Leadership is